All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to AWS Made Easy, episode number 75. It's a warm welcome to Justin Thomas and also Harsh. How is everyone doing today? Let's see. Are we all unmuted? Yep. Awesome.
Yes, everyone's unmuted.
Perfect.
Make sure to do that. Hi, everyone. Hi, Justin.
Hey,
Welcome.
hey,
back.
Rahul, hey, Harsh, hey, Stephen. Great to be with you all, and I can say happy Friday.
Yep. And it's actually the eve of, or not really eve of Diwali, but Diwali is on Sunday here in India. And a lot of the festivities and the celebrations have already started. As you can see, I'm wearing a kurta, which is the more
Nice.
traditional attire here.
Are you gonna light some fireworks tonight? Or,
Yeah,
or...
the fireworks are just about starting. My kids' school basically organized a big kind of Diwali bash for all the students and the parents. So that is a lot of fun. So I was just
Nice.
coming right back from there.
Oh,
And
awesome. Yeah,
it was
we'll be celebrating this weekend too as well. We have some events on Sunday, and
oh, fantastic.
it's going to be a nice big event. Our community goes pretty wild, and yeah, we got the exception to light fireworks. I mean, of course, the professionals have to light the fireworks. We're not allowed to do it ourselves, but professionals will do it.
Where is the celebrations? We used to go to the Redmond one when we lived there.
Yeah, so I'm in the Seattle area. In the northern suburbs, there's a place called Bothell. Like, you can go to the local community center. There's one, and in our neighborhood, we're gonna have a small one. In the neighborhood one, we're not allowed to do the fireworks, but you might have some sparklers. But the actual community center is it's probably one of the larger community centers in the state of Washington, and yeah, they're gonna have a nice celebration there. So. It's a little bit maybe further north from the city, but still worth the drive.
Steven, you should take the kids over there and send some pictures. Steven sent some amazing pictures of the kids playing Holi, earlier in the year. And
that was
really
a blast. That was over at Seattle Center.
Nice.
That was a blast.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun at Holi too as well. It's and the colors everywhere. You could throw it, and a lot of fun too. It was,
Harsh, how are you celebrating in Bangalore?
I'm currently in Jaipur.
Oh, you're in Jaipur right now. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So Jaipur is known for its classic old fort-like style for celebrating our Diwali. So in my current society, you cannot see that this is a night. There has been so much light at this stage that it's like another sun that has been woken up.
I can imagine.
Nice.
It's going to be a fun weekend. What about you, Steven?
Catching up. Let's see. This weekend, I'm going to be working with a friend of mine on building out some gear cases for reInvent. So bringing some of the camera and live streaming gear. So I got these big foam hard cases, and what they do is they come with these big blocks of foam that are perforated into these like 1 centimeter cubes. And so you have to kind of think of the inverse shape of the camera and the gear and then think that through. So I think part of what we'll be doing is getting that ready so we can bring you a live stream from reInvent.
Oh, that's
nice. Nice.
That'll be fun. And it'll be nice to have a mobile setup. I was looking at some of these live streamers. Well, actually, Darko was showing me. He was at TwitchCon, and there's this backpack that you can buy. I forget what it's called. It's like a $3,000 backpack that has literally all. Oh, it's the IRL backpack V7. Here, let me put this on screen for a second. I had no idea this existed. We're going a slightly different approach, but I just wanted to share this. This is pretty cool. Here it is, the IRL backpack. Let me test out our new layout here. There it is. The IRL backpack. So it's a backpack with streaming gear, a switcher, a battery, an encoder, a tripod.
That's pretty cool. You can be very mobile in that way, and especially at reInvent, that would actually probably help, especially with those massive crowds where you probably are gonna need, if you're carrying suitcases of gear, it's gonna be hard to wheel around.
Well, the trick there is going to be getting bandwidth.
That's true. bandwidth is going to be scarce.
Yeah, we're on it, but it's yeah, it's not easy. So, but anyway, this is the gun run backpack. So if you're a hardcore Twitch streamer and you want to be on the go, this this is a neat way to do it. And, wow.
Crazy.
Okay. With you can get a modem with 4 SIMs.
Just in case one's not enough.
There you go.
Okay. So, Justin, awesome to have you on the show. We go back a really long time, and just for Stephen and Harsh, I actually don't know whether this is Harsh's batch. Was it 2017 or thereabouts when you were in Dubai?
Yeah,
And you came into our office.
I think it was
And
2017.
we had an impromptu
2017.
session about Elasticache at that time. Harsh, were you in the? Was it your TU batch? Or was
No,
it?
I was in 2018. It was previous one.
Yeah, so it was a year before Harsh joined us, and that was a fun session in Dubai. And then it's sad that we haven't caught up in person since 2019.
Yeah,
We-
it was good seeing you at reInvent back then, and I think I'm sure we'll catch up in person again. But yeah, no, I think it was in Dubai in 2017, and if I remember now, like we also gave you a sneak peek of our other service, Neptune, at the time.
Neptune was coming up, right? Correct.
So you got the early peak back then, the NDA
Correct.
level, but of
Yeah.
course it was launched and previewed later at that re-event, so everyone else heard about it too as well. But yeah, no, those are some fun database products to work on. I really enjoyed working on the products back then. On the database side, it was Elasticache and both Neptune, really the NoSQL side of the business. And throughout my last almost 7 years here at AWS, I always had the ability to get hands-on and build with customers, and that's really kind of like the fun part of the job and what I've enjoyed the most. And it's definitely a unique culture. But in my current role now, I support our public sector customers, supporting all the databases that our public sector customers use. So in addition to Elasticache and Neptune, I also support Aurora and RDS and all the other 15 plus engines that we support. And because of that, I just came back from DC just last night. I was in DC this whole week supporting some customer workloads. We had an event as well. Met with some of the chief digital officers from Department of Commerce. We had Department of Transportation there. A huge group of a lot of these large government federal use cases. So that was a fun trip. I'm still kind of on East Coast time, so still
that can't be
adjusting.
hard. I mean, that can't be easy traveling between New York or Washington DC and Seattle.
Yeah,
So-
well, I'll be back again next week again. I'm traveling again on Monday, so I'll be home for Diwali and then yeah.
Okay. So Justin, tell the audience a little bit about your background, how you got into tech, how you landed up at AWS 6-7 years ago, and tell us a story.
Yeah. So I grew up in sunny Southern California. So it was really a nice experience growing up with all that sun. I'm now in Seattle, where it's a little bit more gray. But as I was growing up, I had identical twin brothers, so there were 2 of me, and we had a lot of fun. Sometimes tricking our teachers, who was who, and but it was a great experience. But throughout that childhood, I always had a nice fun time, just tinkering and playing around with our old family desktop. And so I was an early user several decades ago of some of these terminal-based applications. And my first hands-on database experience was something called DBase. I don't know if
I remember DBase back in the day.
It was
actually, I wonder how many. Harsh, you're probably 1.5, 2 generations from me. assuming generation is about 7-8 years. Have you heard of DBase?
No,
Have you
not
seen
at all.
DBase?
Not at all.
It was
Yeah.
I'm
It was
looking at the
quite-
Wikipedia now. First released 44 years ago. Last stable release was in 2019. So
The last time
long-lived
I worked
product.
on DBase was probably 2003, 2004, somewhere around that.
It had quite the run, and I mean, even back then, like you had regular people use it for those kind of Excel and spreadsheets were starting to get popular. But back then, before Excel was your database, you kind of had like these other you had to create your own database if you really wanted to get good at data management, and
Correct.
so that was like the way I kind of got introduced to it. And it was fun. It was kind of I enjoyed it, and then. Always had a full old 486 computer, and never had enough memory. So and always upgrading the memory or fixing the hard drive, because actually they didn't have solid state drives back then, so you'd have the spinning disk and
Yeah.
making sure that everything.
Or the diskette.
If your drive was solid state, it was a problem. It means you had a head crash.
Yeah, no, that's it was interesting times, and this was when the internet was something called Prodigy, and and then that was before even AOL, and then AOL took over, and but yeah, I mean that was like my first intro to tech back then, and just kind of stayed close to it ever since then, and then fast forward through college, after college I was able to join Yahoo, who was another company from the early tech days. They,
They're still around, actually, doing some interesting stuff every now and then.
Yeah, they're still around. They're large AWS users. So that was actually during my Yahoo days where I had some of my early exposure to the cloud. Some of the work that I was doing there, we needed the cloud to get some of these large jobs completed, and data processing jobs completed. So that was my first experience. I think that was like around 2009 or so. Using EC2. I might be mixing up some of the years, but it was definitely they recognized early on it's not fun to manage a data center in the expensive Bay Area. So
I can quite imagine.
yeah, so they and fast forward a couple of years, they a large AWS customer. They actually were they spoke publicly at one of our events at I think it was the San Francisco event a few years ago, or it was one of the summits. They spoke about their Neptune usage. So they eventually started to use Neptune for managing their knowledge graph, so that way that anytime that you go to the Yahoo search engine and do a search, you would have the Yahoo knowledge graph also appear on the side, and that would also be powered by Amazon Neptune. So that was their own journey too, as well, from moving from on-prem to the cloud and being able to go global. Because there were some interesting stories back then, but going global was much harder if you had to have your CTO sign off on every new data center and every new hardware purchase. And it was just a couple clicks of buttons, and they were in multiple regions.
When was Marissa Meyer's tenure there? Did you overlap with her?
Yeah. She was there, I think, if I remember, like around 2012 or 2013. And it was actually, I had a great experience. She was super sharp and smart. And, as an employee, it was amazing because we had the ability to really move fast and build new things. And, we launched a new advertising product in like 40 days, which was unheard of back then. And that was even like, before Yahoo was fully on the cloud. So like, even just getting the available hardware to, it actually took longer to get the hardware into the whole acquisition process than actually build it. But no, it was a great experience. And, I think it really did, from an employee perspective, it was amazing to see, the growth. And actually, I was there for so long that after Marissa Mayer, one of my former Los Angeles colleagues and gym buddies, and eventually later on then became the CEO. grew up upon, and he was the CEO for a while, and doing great things there, and they're still doing, they still power a lot of the real-time data use cases for finance and sports. Those are the things that you check on a daily basis. So it's not easy to keep those systems up and running, and that's also why they were able to power some of the big data management use cases around Hadoop and create influence around there. So I had a lot of fun over there. But around 2016 is when I had the opportunity to join AWS. So we moved up from Los Angeles to Seattle to join AWS in 2016, and that's when I was working originally on Elasticache. So Elasticache supporting the real-time use cases around Redis and Memcached. And this was definitely also an interesting time too as well, because you were just really starting to see customers move more and more of their data over, and they needed some, the performance in seconds and milliseconds was not fast enough. They wanted microseconds performance. So then we saw this great pattern of using caching and using Redis in particular, Memcached. So that was a great experience. And then had the opportunity to help launch Neptune in 2017, reInvent for preview, and then 2018 for GA. So it was an amazing experience over the last few years.
We'll have to have another conversation about Graph in particular. I think I was around Graph, I was early Neo4j user, and just the whole idea of being able to do these queries of like, who do you, with a social network of give me your friends and friends of friends, and maybe 2-3 hops away, and find some attribute about that, and not having to use this triply nested join to do that. I think it's such a neat idea, and I still think that Graph's heyday is in front of it in terms of what can be done.
Yeah, definitely happy to help with that and chat with that. And I mean, just one quick point there. I mean, it was like where I first saw the application is really important when it comes to databases, and that's really where Graph became popular, is because you see the visualization through an application, and you had this visual interface. I kind of viewed it as kind of like the early excitement that it helps explain some of the early excitement that you see now with all the generative AI stuff. It's because now you have all this data being accessible via a chatbot, instead of having to, in the past, you'd have to use SQL or something else. Now you just, or run API calls. Now you just run English as your query language. And with Graphs, I kind of saw that as like a early version of that. Instead of running database queries, you're using your mouse to traverse the data. So I kind of view some similarities there, but really it's like the application is super important in how you expose that data.
Well, and it's amazing. I love how I think people who haven't struggled through trying to figure out how to write a deal with the triples and the semantic web ideas, right, where everything was tagged and typed, and it was a great idea, but really, really hard to feel like you could be a power user of it. So anyway, let's save that for another conversation.
Agreed. So what do we have on the agenda for today, Stephen?
Well,
what are we drawing today?
So Justin and I, we got connected at the Seattle AWS user group. He had some really neat applications of generative AI. So Justin, I was wondering if we could put that on screen. You could talk about, I don't want to give away the ideas, but some of your usages of showing an app with RAG, without RAG, to answer natural language questions about a particular corpus of knowledge. I think we're doing tax documents. And then in the second half, we want to show you our Rahul bot that we've been working on using Bedrock, and maybe do some brainstorming on it. So yeah, let's start with that. Let's start with the with what you've been doing with your with Bedrock.
Yeah, happy to show this. And for me, I've been super excited with Bedrock and everything that we've been showing there. Hopefully you can see my screen okay.
Let me do that.
It's not.
There we go.
There it is.
Okay. But yeah, no, I mean, I've had early access to Bedrock, and I've been amazed by the serverless experience for accessing these foundation models. And And I've also been using SageMaker since it launched a few years ago. I think it was 2017, if I remember right. And I really view this as like the next evolution of AI, just the serverless aspect of it. For me, in terms of some of the use cases that I've been working about, I often see the need from customers needing to, augment these general foundation models. Whether it might be Cloud from Anthropic or some of the other ones. They want to really augment their data with their own data and make it relevant and personal for them, because a lot of these pre-trained models give you general responses. So the other thing too as well is like, I work in with a lot of public sector customers. So I have customers that want to see how to do this with just regular SageMaker too. So for that reason, I've been using this demo pretty often. It's something that everyone can run. You just need an AWS account. We have there's a GitHub link once this gets launched. But essentially, what this does is this launches. Once you launch this, it's a web app hosted on S3, as you can see here. And it runs on CloudFront. You can add authentication, so that way not everyone can access it. So I'm logged in. It's using Cognito to secure that. So you have the benefit of just speeding up the app development there. You're not just stuck to a playground console. You could actually deploy something. And there's some other components over here, but also this allows you to connect to Bedrock, but also your own models that you can run on SageMaker. So, if I go in here, you can see that there's the ability to have different models that you run here. So like I'm running this in Northern Virginia here. So it's going to take us, I think it's going to take a second, but I have access to all these different models here, the Bedrock models, all these different ones over here, but I can also use my own models that I've set up on SageMaker. So there's open source models that are very permissible with the Apache 2.0 license, like Falcon. There's a new one called Mistral.
I've heard the results from Mistral 7B are really good.
Oh, they're amazing. And it's not just relevant results that are great, but it's also very cost effective. Like you can run your own Mistral instance on SageMaker for about $300 or so a month. That's very cost effective. For whatever, of course, we recommend using Bedrock if you can for the serverless experience, and that's going to be the most cost effective. But say for whatever reason you just need to run it on your own, Mistral is amazing. There's also Llama 2, which is amazing too as well. And then I don't know if I get time to do this, but there's this other Hugging Face model. It's multi-model, so I can use images as part of the querying. So maybe we have time to show that
awesome.
part of it. But let's just get to showing some of this. Let me just refresh this because I think I got disconnected earlier. So it's going to connect in a second. So when we're talking about these foundation models, a lot of it is just these general pre-trained models. So I'm going to go select a model over here. And so as you can see, this is the list that I showed earlier. I could use any of these for this application. I'm going to select Claude version 2. It's a great model. It's one of my favorite. And then, so right now I'm just going to use on the left over here a general, the generic responses from Claude. And then on the right, I'm going to also select Claude. But then I'm going to use some data that I've inputted about myself, because I'm going to ask a general question about its knowledge base. I'm going to ask, who is Justin Thomas? And if you follow golf, you may have a good guess of what this is going to respond on over here. This is, again, the left. You have the generic Claude model over here, and then you have RAG added, where RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, where I'm retrieving data that's relevant and augmenting the model with that. So let's just run this, and then, okay, it's already showing. Yeah, so on the left, the general model is showing, okay, it's saying, okay, Justin Thomas is a professional golfer. Yeah, of course, that's the general Justin Thomas, very popular guy. He's from Kentucky. I'm not from Kentucky, but but on the right, I've added context to who I am, and I've done this
Right.
behind the scenes, and I'm storing this data in a vector data store. And it says, okay, hey, Justin Thomas is a database specialist at AWS, leads database go-to-market for federal and nonprofit.
Yeah.
I think I need to update the years over here. But the other thing too is I want to show the proof of, so, when it comes to generative AI, you really need to be able to gain trust by showing how the data was generated and how this was shown. So with the one on the left, it's going to just say, okay, this was using Claude version 2, the generic model, the temperature settings, top P, no documents. But over here on the right, it's going to say, okay, yeah, this was also using Claude, but you had some document over here. So I added this into a vector database. This is the source document over here that it's referencing. And so being able to prove and show that response of how that data is generated is going to be where a lot of our customers have been asking, where, how do I personalize this for me?
Got it. This is actually a pretty neat demo. And where can we find it? Can we share the GitHub link?
Yeah. Let me see. I think I'm only sharing one of my tabs over here, but
if you copy and paste the GitHub URL into the private chat part of StreamYard, and then I can just echo that out to the
there it is over there. And so this was a demo that was built by our prototyping team, and they've been making updates constantly. I think just I checked like last night, they did another update. It's being constantly updated and iterated on. And the other thing too as well is, like, I just used some text over here. If you can go even more, I'm just going to go back to the regular playground scenario here. This is what I've done also too is I've uploaded I've created several other workspaces here, but I have this document around the 1099 tax form. So I don't know if anyone's had to create these 1099 miscellaneous tax forms, but they're not that fun to fill out, and it gets kind of complicated. And what I've done is I've taken a PDF of, let me just show this over here. So if we go to workspaces, I've taken, and I've done a few of these too. This thing's amazing. You can crawl websites and extract the text from there. But just for the sake of simplicity, I'll show this one. I've taken the 1099 miscellaneous tax form, which explains how to fill this form out. And I've uploaded it. This application here extracts the text from there, creates embeddings that it then sends into the vector database of choice. I'm using Postgres in this one. I could use OpenSearch. I can use Kendra if I would like to. But it takes that to then allow me to answer more questions as well. I showed that simple example about Justin Thomas earlier, but let's just ask this question now. What is a 1099 miscellaneous tax form? Let's send the question over, and I'm going to turn on the metadata again over here. And then, it provides the response. It's a tax form used in the United States to report various types of income paid to people. And then it shows, the source content over here. And then if you remember that document, it's the same document name. And then the other interesting too as well, within that one same document, it also has other paragraphs that it also matched to. So this is another paragraph that got matched to it. It has a smaller score, so it didn't use this as the response or answer, and matched with other ones too. So there's some scoring behind the scenes that we can talk about, but this is another cool thing. But let me just ask another question, like, what do I put in box 3? See, that maybe I didn't even call out like box 3 of the 1099 miscellaneous tax form. Let's see if that was enough info, given that we're using. Okay, so it was able to understand that I'm referencing this document, and So it says you got to add the income for that, and it cites the paragraph over here, and it's using the PDF as well. So
got it. So here is a question, and I'm kind of putting it out because this is something that a lot of folks out there keep wondering and thinking about. But let me give you an example of a problem, and let's talk through how you would actually go about solving it with all the tools that are available today. So let's take this tax form particularly. This is the 1099.
yeah,
11.
1099 miscellaneous tax form. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think the form said 11099.
That's an I right there. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so the question is, let's assume that I had a bunch of documents that were enough, that had all the data to fill up the 1099 form. Okay, so I have a 1099 form with instructions available. The good thing about US tax forms is they have very detailed instructions about how to fill it up. So that's one document. I would assume that you would need all your bank statements. You would need some kind of an employment certificate that tells you where you're working, what you're doing, what your income might be as like a salary slip or something like that. I don't know why I lost power here. Should be back. Okay. And then what other documents would you require? Your passport or something else?
Yeah.
I don't know what the 1099 form is, so I'm just making stuff up here.
Yeah,
but
you
let's
probably need your
assume
social
that
security number, your W-2, right? Some bank statements.
great.
Yeah.
So if you had all of those, what would you need to do to build out the solution where it automatically fills out everything for you? At least a first draft of it that you can then review and fill and then submit. So
Yeah.
what are the components? Like
Yeah,
how do you
and I think it's going to probably take some iteration and identifying the right process. But the first thing I would start off with, kind of actually like what you were calling out is trying to understand like which questions that you're trying to answer, and get that general idea. So within the maybe I can pull up the form in a second, but identifying the natural language questions of what you want to fill out, what kind of form. So maybe having some instructions around that too as well. Like this is an example of how you fill it out. So let me just show, let's see if we can pull up the right screen or right tab over here. So this would be the instructions form over here. So, using this as the base document here would be the step number 1. So this is all the instructions. It's 12 pages. This is what we had ingested. So giving the instructions, having it understood, and giving this the right context. So this is the where we augment the model. And then the other set of documents based on whatever kind of questions that you have would be like your own personal documents, like you mentioned, like, your ID, your financial statements, all that. And being able to also ingest that within the vector data store too. So, once you have the questions you want to answer and then the right documents, and then that's where you can start to building and see, okay, is this enough data, and is this structured in the right way to answer these questions of like, what do I put in box 3? Like, okay, grab this component from this document. It still might require some fine tuning, but I think that it would be where you can get some start from there. And really, it's again, and this is kind of the hardest part with a lot of these models. It's like, number 1, identifying like which problem am I trying to solve here, and is this even the right problem? Like, it's in theory, with a lot of some of these generative AI use cases, some of these problems can be solved with just regular keyword search. That could be keyword search that could be used from whether it's Postgres or OpenSearch or numerous different technologies that provide keyword search. In this example that you're saying, like, fill this out for me, like, it requires some new generation of text. So this is where generative AI could come into value, but maybe part of that could be solved by keyword search. And that's actually where this demo even, I'll go back to the screen here to share it. We do actually, with this demo, include both keyword search and semantic search. So that way you could see that, hey, this probably would have been fine with just regular keyword search.
And I've got a follow-up question once we do this.
But yeah, go ahead while I type this up.
Okay. So, and maybe Harsha, you can comment on this one as well. Okay, so you put information into with the extra information with the RAG, right? So in this case, there was the 1099. In the other case, it was information about Justin Thomas, not Justin Thomas, the golfer. If we had asked in the original example, tell me about Justin Thomas, the famous golfer, it's not going to get them confused, right? How does it weight the RAG's information to its general corpus of knowledge? And what if you gave it a 1099 form that was bogus and was totally in contradiction? Because there's probably some general knowledge about US tax accounting built into the general corpus of knowledge. So if you give it some 1099 that's bogus, how does it separate that tension between the two of them?
Yeah, and that's where we have the ranking from the cross-encoder models really coming into play, because the reality is you're going to have potential matches across the general model and then also our own documents. And this is not different, this is different than the original question that we had about who's Justin Thomas, but what is a 1099 miscellaneous tax form? It'll show you the different results here, and it's combining the results from the different paragraphs and giving them different scores. It's also showing that the results from keyword search and vector search. So this is where the trust aspect comes into very key, and being able to really show the source of it. Because if you, in the example of where if you did have a bogus one, being able to cite how the answer and be able to prove and be transparent about that is key. And that's where these cross-encoder models really do come in handy. So this is like another area where we can go deep into generative AI, but you can. This is as part of the ranking of results. It's important that you select one that meets your needs and requirements. Right here, we're using the SageMaker provided cross-encoder model that we're hosting. Let's say this one's an open source one, but there's numerous different options. So I think, again, it goes back to really understanding, like, okay, how do I want to answer these questions? Which documents, and which sources should I use? And as part of that, just being able to iterate over that.
Okay, so part of how it's building up its confidence in the external information in cross-checking it for consistency, and that's giving it too anthropomorphic an idea. It's checking the math of the encoding of the vectors versus what it already has, right? So that's how it determines consistency. So you could say something like, in a hypothetical universe with a different 1099 form, and then you can get it to hallucinate all you want to, but not okay. So if you gave it a bogus 1099 and pretended that it was the real one, it would your general accuracy would just fall.
Yeah,
cross encoding wouldn't give you anything useful.
Correct. Yeah, and then we can prove this out over here, like where if we have the query text over here, and what it does is you can compare the ranking of results based off the passages that you want to compare it with. But correct, yeah, this is all really coming down to math that we learned in school many years ago. It's a combination of statistics, a combination of calculus, but a lot of these are essentially it's a similarity search, and identifying who the proximate neighbors are based off these texts that have been transformed into numbers. Essentially having the ranking is just as important as part of that, just to make sure that you are getting truly the right results.
Got it. When it comes to things like forms, so here's what I want to contrast. When it comes to understanding PDFs like the one we just looked at, we've always had things like Textract in the service catalog. Like, why would we go about using something like this versus using Textract to extract all those elements and then put them into the vector database?
Yeah, I mean, you
Versus-
can actually certainly use Textract. I mean, I think this is just a sample way of how to do it. It's using
Got it.
some of the open source libraries to do the OCR on the documents and extract it. Textract could certainly be probably the easier way if you want to manage this at scale and have like a serverless approach to it. I think it's just really coming down to, at that point, just making sure that you are architecting based off your requirements and needs. So, for that, Textract would often be a great tool for extracting the text and just making sure that then once it's extracted, then being able to then insert it into the database itself. I have a reference architecture somewhere over here of this entire architecture. It's gotten to be pretty big, but we can show you how it's being done. But it's really, I think this is kind of like the key part of it here. It's like just prototyping and making sure that you understand the kind of questions that you want to answer.
Can we paste that in the private chat so we can share it with everyone else as well? If there's
Yeah.
a reference architecture that's public.
Yeah, let me paste that right here, and then I could show this real
Great.
quick. And I think it's this one right here, architecture. So this is on the main GitHub. So it's AWS Gen AI LLM
Hold on,
chatbot.
Let me just bring that to the stage here. Yeah, there we go.
And so as part of this, you can see the users, they're approaching the CloudFront URL. It's protected by Cognito for authentication, so that the entire web is not trying to access it. It's using API gateway to manage in which resources it connects. It's a fairly, almost entirely serverless backend, using DynamoDB for storing the conversation state of the histories, using SNS for notifications of like, okay, a new document's been uploaded. Now use extract the text, and step functions for coordinate orchestration of that. And then you have the different RAG engines, and of course Bedrock or SageMaker behind the scenes.
Very neat. So here's a follow-up question on this. AWS hasn't really created, other than Titan, native version of an LLM model. Is AWS's approach to kind of give up on that and focus on curating a bunch of models from elsewhere, or specifically the open source ones? Or can we foresee, maybe at reInvent, an announcement about a custom AWS model?
Yeah, so full transparency, I don't have the SageMaker roadmap or knowledge, so I'm not speaking about any.
Would that come up with SageMaker or Bedrock?
That would, to be honest, yeah, I wouldn't know, but from what I've seen with our customers and what they've been asking for, they do want the choice of being able to have the flexibility of using the third-party models like Claude or some, the other ones, but also, especially MySpace, they want the ability to run their own models that they fine-tuned. So I think the choice component is very, very key in being able to have that flexibility. And, that's kind of like where I've had a lot of fun with showing this demo to customers, because they could see we didn't get into it, but you can compare how maybe Claude would respond versus Llama, and compare that with Falcon. So with a lot of these use cases, identifying which model you want to use is an important one, and these models are changing all the time. So being able to have that system that allows you to just plug and play easily, with these different models is really what a lot of our customers are asking for. And in terms of who is creating it, I think that sometimes it becomes less of a question in terms of like, okay, how is this relevant for my use case? And sometimes you see this with Mistral. the number of parameters it's been trained on, sometimes it matters less than the approach that the organization behind it has taken to train it. Because Mistral, they've from their website they claim that it performs better than Llama 2, which has a much larger parameter data set to train against. So I think really it's picking the right model for your use case and less about the organization behind it.
Got it. Okay. Then the next thing that we kind of wanted to, oh, by the way, I forgot. Harsh, are we doing a quick demo of where we are at with the latest version of the hackathon before we move on to reInvent, which is coming up very, very soon?
Yeah, we'd love to show you the Rahul bot and maybe Justin get some of your feedback on it. Let's see, Harsh, I'll put your. So what we've done. Actually, Harsh, should you explain how we've created this up to this point?
Yes, sure. Let's just start with code first. So this is being created with the help of the Bedrock and using LangChain as a tool which will create all the pipelines, all the Q&A chain, retrieval chain for us. We are using a few caching methods like GPT-4 cache for caching the questions and answers. In agents, we are using Titan.
Are we going to share the screen? Are you sharing a screen, Harsh?
I think it's stopped. Let me share it again.
No problem. And I've put up a banner that has the code. Let's see.
So is my screen visible?
Wait,
there you go.
Put it up. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. So there is the embeddings we use. We use the Amazon Titan Embed G1 Text02 embeddings, and we use the Chroma as a vector store to. This is currently not on the cloud, so it is storing it in a local SQLite database. And after that, we have a simple retrieval chain pipeline. We use the stuff chain, and we retrieve it using the Bedrock models. We have the options to select as many as these 3 models. We can choose any of them to generate the answer. And after that, we also output all the source documents which were responsible for generating that particular answer and what was the exact script which was used in generation.
So in this case, it's the transcript of our previous episodes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is a very simple code, not too many lines, but very minimalistic.
Nice, very cool. It looks like am I reading this right? You're doing like chunks of 1,000 characters for the embedding? Okay, cool. Nice.
No, not for the embeddings. I think line number 26 is for the generation output. But the chunks of embedding is also nearly the same amount. We do not configure it. LangChain take care of that part.
Okay, cool. Yeah, looks great.
And this is how it looks like. So it's a very simplistic UI, Q&A with Rahul. You can ask any questions in it. You can choose how many tokens that you want. So you can increase, default is 1,000, but you can increase to it any number. You can control the temperature, and then you can select the LLM model out of it, and then you can search.
Okay. So we're going to ask a question?
Yes.
To demo this.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Justin, can you give us a question on something about AWS costs that you would want to know?
We talked about Neptune, right? Do you think the documents, source documents mention Neptune at all? Or no, is that too specific? How much does Neptune cost for a R5 large? Or is that too specific?
I think more like, well, yeah, we could try it. I think it's something more along the lines of how would you optimize your costs running Neptune or something?
Yeah, let's try that then. Yeah.
So
how
would you save costs on AWS Neptune?
Yeah. And this is a prime example of identifying which kind of questions you want to answer for your model and being able to provide the right source. Okay, so you talked about Neptune serverless. Okay.
But noted that there are still some questions around pricing and use cases compared to provision Neptune. They didn't provide specific guidance on saving costs.
Got it.
These
Okay.
are the 4 scripts that were used in generation. These are the past live stream scripts from these different episodes, 23, 20. Majorly, I think it is 23 episode in which it is being discussed.
Nice. Okay. And so like in this kind of example, I mean, this is where like, okay, like say you are noticing these kind of questions coming into the bot, you can then add more content for the RAG use case, you know, and so that way it could then be able to answer and provide the responses. It's really just, you know, at that point, again, going back to like, what question should I ask, and then giving the right documents to support it.
Yeah, I wonder if models like this can be kind of trained in a very, you know, the way you train, the way they trained a lot of the chess and the Go AIs, where you basically have an adversarial, you know, setup where there's one bot that's just generating questions to ask, and the other one is trying to answer them, and it learns from the process of what it couldn't answer well enough, and keeps building out its
Yeah, that's like the whole reinforcement, human feedback
Yes.
thing.
Well,
And
I was thinking that this could actually give us good advice for what topics to cover in future episodes. Is to have a bot generating questions. Could say, "Oh wow, okay, we haven't talked about Neptune enough." Harsh, is there a way to kind of programmatically get when it says I can't really answer the question? Is there a flag in that, or is that completely natural language?
It's a completely natural language, but I believe we can easily make another LLM call to identify that it is not answering, or it is not the correct answer, it is missing out. Or we can change the original prompt such that when it does not find the answer, it can give us a fixed phrase which we can capture later.
And the nice thing about these LLMs now is that you can actually force them to produce JSON output.
Yes.
With very specific structures, and that's easy to consume by any programmatic API.
Yes.
Well, I like the idea of a fixed phrase. We'd say, if you can't answer, say "Danger, Will Robinson." We could just prep for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, Claude does a lot of that too as well. Especially when it doesn't provide the answer, it's very aggressive. But yeah, I mean, I think to Rahul's point, like I think that's really where you know, productivity is also like one of the other things that improves with these generative AI tools. You know, being able to generate and structure data in the right way in that JSON format, not having to, you know, build your own tooling to get the right format, and the response is a huge value. And we've seen huge improvements in productivity that way.
Completely agree.
Well, okay, so I think in a future hackathon stream, we need to make a question generator bot that we can then plug in and almost have a heat map of our question coverage, so that we can understand, okay, here's where we can answer really good questions, here's where we are lacking, and then that'll give us our some of our episode itinerary for 2024.
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, one funny thing I did was, I mean, I haven't played around with this too much, but you know, I started just using this demo. I just started. It has a crawler, so I just put like one sitemap pages, and then it crawls up to like 1,000 different pages to extract the text from there. So if you, I guess my point in saying that is, like, you know, you can really just build your own massive portfolio of documents to where you just kind of greedy in how many documents you want to add to your vector database, and be able to answer as many as possible. And so I've used the pricing example. You know, all the pricing pages are 1,000 pricing pages, and the prescriptive guidance. So it really, yeah, you can, you know, replicate some of these, you know, functions that we have on, you know, answering questions with more of this corpus of knowledge that you have. And that's really where, like, kind of what we see Kendra's been doing in the past with a lot of our AWS customers, but then, you know, with generative AI, bringing in and structuring responses that are more specific to the user's original question and matching that response in a way.
One of the targets I want to have for 2024 is to have the Rahul bot host one of these shows.
Nice.
Or you should at least be a co-participant in our live stream, and it provides answers as and when questions flood in, and where Stephen and I might feel absolutely dumb not knowing answers to them, where we are trying to figure out what the right answer for some questions that get asked are. And maybe you have the Rahul bot that does a far better job of figuring out the right answers.
Well, if it's using your info, then it's really you. But I think you call it a good point. Like the multi-model aspect of what we're doing is going to be
Right.
like the big thing for 2024. So using voice and
I agree.
text and images and being able to have it in real time respond is key. And that's really where you get that real time performance. And that's like kind of the next level. I mean, I still feel like the hardest problem is like making sure that, for your domain or the problem that you're trying to solve, like you bring in the right domain documents and make sure it is answering like at least some of the initial questions. And because I've seen customers like where they just want to build a simple support chat bot, and they try to start jumping to the point of where they want to fine tune some model, and that's going way too deep fast. Just start small, like use Bedrock. It's it's serverless, it's cost effective, iterate on it, and then get some good responses, and then you can go into the next stages of fine tuning or whichever approach you need to do.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. Don't jump right into the fine tuning. Jump into what you're actually, how you're feeding the model, right? The context you're supplying. Make sure that's good data. Like we discussed this last week. One of the issues on the Robobot is that not all of our transcripts are properly separated into who is saying what, and so I need to rerun transcribe and make sure the speakers are labeled. And especially as we have guests who we want guests who don't necessarily share our opinions, but right now it's all aggregated, so we want to make sure that we can separate who's saying what.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that even that labeling of your data, even at this point, is going to be important for that.
Got it. Okay, I know we don't have too much time, but I definitely want to jump into reInvent and talk a little bit about that. So, Justin, you already kind of made a couple of 2024 predictions for Gen AI, where multimodal is going to be kind of front and center. But more specifically, what are your predictions for reInvent specifically? And maybe you can't talk about that, but you are like one of us, assuming no insights about AWS, though that's kind of
well
hard to.
The one thing that I was surprised by with the whole room, there's already been a couple of announcements just yesterday alone. There's like this massive list of announcements yesterday.
Yes,
and that's a good sign, because if there's already some announcements happening, that means okay, these are the the regular updates. So, and some of these are huge, especially on the database side. It's like we're adding the ability to have Postgres, multiple writers, I didn't describe that the right way, but there's like some huge announcements on Postgres side that we would consider like typically a reInvent launch, but that being available. RDS custom launching in GovCloud. So yeah, some of these announcements already are pretty big. So it's a nice hint of potentially what might be out there. I think some big announcements. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be watching it at I'll be watching reInvent virtually from a watch party here in Seattle. We'll be having our Seattle Skills Center for AWS hosted launch party, so that way if anyone wants to watch in a group, which we recommend because you get the real-time feedback and insights from the crowd, it's a great way.
So that is at 1915 Terry Avenue. Rahul and I got to interview Maria Petrova, the Skills Center lead. Had a chat with her. That was a couple of months ago now. It's a really, really neat place. So again, if you haven't been to the AWS Skills Center in Seattle, make sure to check that out. You can stop in at any time, have a chat with the cloud. They offer paths to certification, to training, and they've engineered it so that you can come in and literally say, what is a computer? And start from there. And there's a path all the way to cloud certifications at like zero or very low cost. They do a lot of great events for the community. They're a really neat place. So definitely use this as an opportunity to check out the Skills Center. It'd be a great place to watch. If you can't be there in person, that's a great place to have camaraderie, to have discussions. And then
and I have one final question, Justin. Having attended both the online and the offline versions of reInvent, what is your one tip to make the most out of this event when you are there in person from your standpoint, and one when you're going to be remote?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same tip for all of it, and that's just planning, making sure you plan your schedules and your days for the key sessions that you want to watch. Because, especially if you're in person, you can be walking miles and miles every day, and you might think that you could make a session that's 30 minutes. So, you have 30 minutes to walk to another hotel, but, sometimes that's not enough time to walk through the crowds and through the distance. But even virtually too as well, like, some of the sessions, like, our calendars could quickly already start filling up. So, even if you're virtual, just making sure you reserve the time to watch the sessions that you really want to pay attention to. So, the keynotes are important, but, also for your domain of area that you really want to follow along, whether it's databases or machine learning or analytics or some of the compute areas, making sure that you start looking at the schedule and blocking out the time now to save those sessions.
I'm going to take a slightly contrarian view on that and offer a slightly different tip, which is both the offline and the online or in-person versions are literally all about the people. So all these sessions are going to be available online, soon. So if you want to meet the people at those sessions who are talking about it, and you want to spend time with the experts, there's no better place than to do that in person. And if you're going to be offline, then your motivation should be the group of people that you're sitting with and analyzing the insights that you'll get from conversations about what's happening at the keynote or through some of the other sessions. Those will be way more valuable for you. That network is something that you will then be able to rely on in the future as well. So I'd say do the networking, meet with people, make the most out of interactions with people. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be streamed later, and you can always get to content at a later stage, but you will not get to meet with the people again, quite like you would in person, or quite like when you're doing a watch party with some really great people around you.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And I think that's kind of almost the same thing I'm saying. So you have to plan all that from today. Make sure you plan so that way you can have those good conversations around the content that you like. So, but yeah, it's going to be exciting, I think.
Looking forward to it. I think we are slightly over time, but Justin, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope the audience enjoyed this as well. If you had any questions, send them to us and we'll pass them on to Justin and try and get answers. But we hope to have you back on the show sometime post reInvent, Justin, to talk about all the things that transpired.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We would love that. And this is a great session today. So thank you for having me on, and looking to see you all in the future again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
all
you.
Right. Thanks everyone. Have a good weekend. Have a great Diwali.
And happy Diwali, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Some tools just find AWS cost savings and make you do all the work. Visualizing cost opportunities is great, but that's not enough. CloudFix, on the other hand, actually delivers those savings for you. And you don't need to worry, because CloudFix is AWS recommended and easy to use. It's the only tool that fixes cost-saving opportunities, and not just finds. It's the easiest way to save money on AWS. It's all 100% automatic and risk-free. And the best part of all, it works non-stop. Stop overspending on AWS and click on the button to start saving now.
Is a lesson I learned after my very first reInvent, where I wore formal shoes because I was presenting. I thought we're good to wear formal shoes and attend this thing, and I didn't pack any other pair. I was in pain after day one. Please do not wear uncomfortable shoes. They might look nice, they might look fancy, but no, you have to wear comfortable shoes because you're going to be walking miles. If you were wearing a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, you're going to hit every single target that you had set. You can be at the expert level targets and you will nail them within half a day.
I was like 20 to 25,000 steps in a day. That's not me. So yes, if you do some cardio before you go to, there's 41 days. Okay, so you can start today. Build your stamina if you want to go to Vegas for reInvent, for sure.
You are going to be standing for the vast majority of the day. You're going to be walking like crazy. So